What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? That's the question that lingered in Emma Clark's mind as she tightened the straps on her hiking backpack, the harsh sun beating down on the vast, cracked expanse of Death Valley. The wind carried a dry heat that felt like it could scorch through skin and bone, but Emma barely noticed. Today wasn't just any hike, it was the start of a journey none of her friends could forget. The kind of adventure that would change everything. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma's voice, caught on a shaky selfie video, carried a mix of excitement and something else, an undercurrent of uncertainty. Her circle of friends stood around her, their faces reflecting the same mix of anticipation and nerves. There was Jake, Emma's younger brother, with his practical attitude and cautious eyes, Lena, whose seasoned hiking boots showed the miles she had conquered, and Mark, the jokester who was always trying to lighten tense moments with his wit. This was more than a hike. They were chasing whispers and legends about a hidden cave deep within Death Valley's unforgiving desert, a place said to hold artifacts no one had ever dared to reveal. Emma's heart thumped with a cocktail of adrenaline and memories she tried to bury in the corporate world she had walked away from months ago. The last time she had felt this alive, she was riding the wave of a new startup, pushing technology forward with her fiancé, Ethan. But then tragedy struck, and everything she had built inside her heart and mind collapsed. The desert stretched out before them, endless and daunting, a challenge that seemed to echo the internal deserts Emma felt inside. Could this trip help her find something she had lost? Or would it strip away what little hope she still clung to? As they took their first steps into the blinding landscape, Emma caught a glimmer of something in the distance, a jagged rock formation that looked oddly out of place. Something about it felt like the start of a secret waiting to be uncovered. The wind picked up, whispering through the valley's crevices, as if carrying the voices of those who had come before them, daring them to uncover the truth. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, and Emma felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just about the hike anymore. It was about confronting the past, the fears, and maybe, just maybe, discovering a new path forward. The heat prickled at her skin, the desert's breath heavy with anticipation. And as the first star appeared in the fading sky, Emma whispered to herself, "Let's find out what's really out here." The journey had begun. Emma Clark wasn't always the adventurous woman standing at the edge of Death Valley, staring down a desert that seemed to stretch forever. Just a year ago, Emma had been living a completely different life, one that was measured by boardroom meetings, investor pitches, and the steady buzz of Silicon Valley's relentless energy. She was a rising star in the tech world, a product manager at a promising startup focused on renewable energy solutions, where she worked side by side with her fiancé Ethan Turner, whose brilliance was matched only by his passion for changing the world. They were partners in life and work, dreaming of a future that was bright, innovative, and full of promise. But life, as Emma had painfully learned, rarely followed the neat paths we planned for it. One cold winter night, an accident stole Ethan from her, a car crash on the way home from a conference that left Emma hollow, crushed by grief and guilt. For months, she drifted in a fog of sadness, unable to imagine a life without him, unable to step into the light of a world that suddenly felt cold and empty. It was during this time that Emma made the hardest decision of her life, to walk away from everything she knew, to quit her job, leave behind her friends in San Francisco, and disappear into the vast openness of the desert. She needed space, a new challenge that might force her to confront the pain instead of hiding from it. Her brother Jake was the first to support her when she told him about her plans to hike through Death Valley. Jake, younger by 2 years, had always been the cautious, grounded one, the one who called Emma bossy big sister, but always had her back. He didn't understand why she was throwing everything away, but he respected her need to find herself again. The bond between Emma and Jake was complicated but unbreakable. They'd fought as kids over trivial things like the last slice of pizza or which TV show to watch, but they also shared a childhood filled with memories of family trips, backyard barbecues, and summer evenings spent chasing fireflies. After their parents' divorce, Jake had become Emma's anchor, the person she could count on when the world spun out of control. Lena, the third member of their group, was a childhood friend of Jake's who had taken to hiking and the outdoors like a fish to water. She was the voice of reason and experience in the group, a woman who had tackled mountains and deserts across the country, always pushing her limits but never losing her empathy. Emma admired Lena's strength and calm, especially when things got rough. Then there was Mark, the wild card. Mark had met Emma through mutual friends during a weekend camping trip a few years back. His easygoing nature and sharp humor were a welcome contrast to the heaviness Emma carried with her, and his jokes often broke the tension when things got too serious. Yet beneath Mark's light-hearted facade was a man wrestling with his own demons, a fact only the closest friends saw. The four of them formed a fragile but determined team, each carrying their own stories of pain and hope as they set off toward the mysterious cave rumored to lie deep within the valley. Emma's decision to take on this challenge was not just about the hike, it was about reclaiming her life, piece by piece. The desert, with all its harsh beauty and unforgiving terrain, seemed like the perfect place to confront her fears. She remembered how Ethan used to joke that she needed to unplug from the grid and find peace away from the chaos of their startup's world. Now, as she walked alongside her friends, the memory was bittersweet, but it also sparked a small flame of hope inside her. At night, when the desert cooled and the stars emerged like scattered diamonds against the black sky, Emma allowed herself to remember more than just loss. She remembered laughter, shared dreams, and the quiet moments when she and Ethan planned a future where technology and nature could coexist in harmony. Those memories were both a balm and a burden, reminding her of what she'd lost and what she still wanted to fight for. The group's journey wasn't just physical, it was deeply emotional. As they navigated the rocky trails and shifting sands, Emma found herself opening up in ways she hadn't anticipated. She told Lena about the moments after Ethan's death when she felt utterly alone, about the nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd ever find happiness again. Lena listened without judgment, offering quiet support that Emma cherished. Jake, despite his protective instincts, revealed his own struggles, how watching Emma suffer had broken his heart and left him feeling powerless. Mark shared stories of his battles with depression, explaining how the desert solitude was a way for him to confront the shadows lurking inside. Through these shared confessions, the group grew closer, forming a bond that was stronger than any of them had expected. It was this connection that gave Emma the courage to keep moving forward, even when the sun was relentless and the path uncertain. Each step felt like a small victory against the weight of grief. Emma's internal struggle played out against the stunning backdrop of Death Valley's rugged beauty. She noticed the way the sunlight danced on the golden rocks at dawn, the delicate bloom of desert wildflowers after a rare rain, and the haunting silence that enveloped the land at dusk. These moments reminded her that life could be both harsh and breathtakingly beautiful at the same time, just like her own journey. Yet the past wasn't far behind. Emma often caught herself flinching at sudden noises, her mind flashing back to the moment she got the news about Ethan. That memory was a sharp pain that refused to dull, no matter how far she walked from the city. Sometimes, she wondered if she deserved this second chance at life, if the desert's vast emptiness was meant to erase her mistakes or punish her for them. But with every sunrise, Emma found new reasons to believe. She saw it in Jake's unwavering support, Lena's steady strength, and Mark's surprising resilience. And most of all, she saw it in herself, a spark that refused to die out. The legend of the cave had first reached Emma through an old journal she found in Ethan's belongings, filled with sketches and notes about ancient desert artifacts and strange symbols. Ethan had been fascinated by the intersection of history and science, convinced that some secrets of sustainable energy might lie hidden in the past. This discovery had fueled their startup's mission, a beacon of hope in a world grappling with climate change and uncertainty. Now, holding that journal in her backpack, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The cave wasn't just a mystery, it was a symbol of what she was fighting for. The journey ahead was dangerous, no doubt. Death Valley's temperatures soared during the day and plunged at night, and the unforgiving terrain tested their endurance at every turn. But Emma felt ready. The desert, in all its harshness and grandeur, was a mirror of her soul, scarred but strong, broken but beautiful. As they made camp that first night beneath a blanket of stars, Emma lay awake listening to the desert's whispers, the steady breathing of her friends nearby. She thought about the question that had brought her here: what if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? She didn't have an answer yet. But she was beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, losing everything was not the end. It was the beginning of a different kind of journey. One that required courage, connection, and the willingness to face the unknown. And as the desert night wrapped around them, Emma felt a flicker of hope, a tiny light in the vast darkness, that this trip might be her chance to find a new way forward. The sun was already beating down when Emma's group started their second day of hiking deeper into Death Valley, the relentless heat pressing against their bodies as the rocky trail wound through towering sandstone cliffs and barren plains. What had started as a trip filled with excitement and shared purpose now began to show cracks in the camaraderie, tensions rising like the temperature around them. Emma felt it first in the sharp glances exchanged between Jake and Mark, a silent battle brewing beneath the surface. Jake, ever the cautious one, was obsessed with safety protocols, urging the group to move slower, carry extra water, and stick to known paths. Mark, on the other hand, was restless and impatient, pushing for shortcuts and lightening the mood with jokes that didn't quite land anymore. The fragile balance that held the group together was tipping, and Emma struggled to keep her role as both leader and peacemaker. The rocky terrain was unforgiving, and every step required focus. The desert's raw beauty was captivating, but the oppressive heat made each breath heavy. As they climbed a steep incline, Jake stopped abruptly, pointing to a jagged rock nearby where a strange symbol was etched deep into the stone. It was unlike anything they had seen so far, a circle enclosing an intricate pattern that seemed both ancient and deliberate. Emma crouched down, tracing the carvings with her fingers, feeling a chill despite the heat. "Do you think this could be connected to the cave?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lena nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding cliffs. "There's definitely something here, something old. These markings could be a map or a warning." Mark scoffed. "Or it's just some bored vandal who thought the desert was a good place for graffiti." His attempt at humor fell flat, and Jake shot him a glare that said, "Not the time." Emma sensed the rising tension and stepped between them. "Let's not jump to conclusions. Whatever it is, we need to be careful." The group pressed on, but the atmosphere was charged. Emma felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier, knowing that one wrong move could escalate the situation. Hours later, as the sun reached its zenith, the heat became unbearable. Sweat drenched their clothes, and the air shimmered with the desert's oppressive energy. Jake suggested they take a break near a small rocky outcrop that offered some shade. The group dropped their packs, grateful for the brief respite, but the tension didn't ease. Jake pulled Emma aside, his voice low and urgent. "Emma, we need to reconsider our route. This place is getting to everyone. I don't want anyone to get hurt." Emma shook her head, the stubborn determination in her chest refusing to back down. "We're close. I can feel it. We have to keep going." Jake's frustration was clear. "That's exactly the problem. You're pushing too hard, and it's wearing us down." Before Emma could respond, Mark laughed nervously, trying to defuse the situation. "Hey, if we all just relax, maybe the cave will show up like a mirage." His humor was strained, and Emma caught the hint of desperation behind it. Lena stepped in calmly. "We all want to find it, but we have to listen to each other. No one's going anywhere alone." The group agreed, but the undercurrent of unease remained. As they packed up to continue, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the canyon, kicking up a cloud of dust that stung their eyes and coated their skin. The wind howled through the cliffs like a warning, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the desert was testing them, pushing their limits in ways they hadn't expected. The trail soon led them to a narrow crevice between two towering rock faces, a natural gateway that seemed to beckon them forward. The air here was cooler, shadowed, and the group moved cautiously, senses alert. Suddenly, Emma stumbled over an uneven stone, catching herself just in time. As she looked down, she noticed more strange symbols carved into the rocks lining the crevice, their shapes complex and unfamiliar. "Look at these," she said, pointing. Jake knelt beside her, tracing the carvings with a careful finger. "It's like they're telling a story." Lena peered closer, her brow furrowed. "Or a warning. These patterns don't feel random." Mark's earlier levity was gone now, replaced by a palpable unease. "Maybe we should turn back," he muttered, voice barely audible. Emma's heart pounded. The discovery was thrilling but also unnerving. Was this a message left by those who had come before, or something more sinister? The group pressed forward, entering a cavernous hollow that opened into a small natural amphitheater surrounded by jagged rocks. The light here was dim, filtered through cracks above, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Emma's breath caught as she spotted a small, weathered box tucked into a crevice near the ground. Carefully, she reached for it, her fingers trembling. The box was heavy, made of metal, and covered in the same strange symbols. The group gathered around as Emma pried it open, revealing a collection of worn papers and an old, tarnished pendant shaped like a star. The papers were brittle, filled with handwritten notes and sketches that hinted at an ancient knowledge of the land, its dangers, its secrets, and something about a power that could change the world. Emma's eyes widened. This could be what Ethan was studying. Jake frowned. "Are you sure this is safe? What if we're messing with something we don't understand?" Lena placed a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder. "We have to be smart. Take what we need and respect the place." Mark, quieter now, stared at the pendant. "Looks like some kind of symbol for guidance or protection." The group debated their next move, the tension still simmering beneath the surface. Emma felt torn between the thrill of discovery and the responsibility she carried, not just to her friends, but to the legacy Ethan had left behind. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert floor, the group made camp nearby. The fire crackled, and the desert night wrapped around them like a cloak. Despite the heat of the day, the air had turned cool and crisp. Around the fire, the friends shared stories to ease the tension, Jake's dry humor, Lena's tales of past adventures, and Mark's jokes that occasionally pierced the heavy silence. Emma, however, felt restless. The discoveries weighed on her mind, swirling with memories of Ethan's passion and the unspoken fears that gnawed at her heart. As she stared into the flames, she wondered if the cave held more than just artifacts, if it held answers to questions she hadn't dared ask. That night, a sudden sandstorm blew in, whipping the desert into a frenzy. The friends scrambled to secure their camp, shouting over the roar of the wind. Emma felt the raw power of the storm, the desert showing its wild, unpredictable side. Inside the tent, the four of them huddled together, the storm rattling the fabric like the beating of a giant's fists. Fear mingled with adrenaline as the storm battered them, but amidst the chaos, a fragile hope took root, a hope that they could endure, that together, they could face whatever lay ahead. When dawn broke, the storm had passed, leaving the desert washed clean and strangely serene. The sand had shifted, revealing a narrow path leading deeper into the canyon. The group exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. This new path was their invitation, and their challenge. Rising conflict had tested their bonds, but also revealed a quiet resilience. Emma felt that the desert was no longer just a backdrop for their journey. It was a living force shaping their fate, pushing them toward truths they could not yet imagine. The day ahead promised danger, discovery, and the kind of trials that would either break them or bind them forever. The narrow path revealed by the sandstorm stretched ahead like a secret invitation, winding deeper into the heart of Death Valley's labyrinthine canyons. Emma felt the weight of the discovery settling in her chest, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The desert around them was transformed, the fresh footprints in the sand marking their passage into an unknown world. The group moved cautiously, senses sharpened by the recent storm's fury and the strange symbols they had uncovered. The canyon walls rose steeply on either side, their surfaces carved by centuries of wind and water into twisting shapes that seemed almost alive in the dim light filtering down from above. The air was cooler here, carrying a faint scent of earth and minerals, a stark contrast to the blistering heat of the open desert. With every step, Emma felt as if they were slipping further into a hidden world, one that held secrets far beyond what they had imagined. The terrain became more challenging, narrow ledges and loose stones demanding careful footing. Jake led the way, his usual caution amplified by the responsibility of keeping the group safe. Lena followed close behind, her eyes scanning the rocky outcrops for signs of wildlife or danger. Mark trailed last, quiet and thoughtful, the earlier tensions replaced by a focused determination. Emma kept her eyes on the path but couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows shifted along the walls, and the echo of their footsteps seemed to bounce back with a strange resonance, as if the canyon itself was alive and aware. Suddenly, the path opened into a vast cavern, its ceiling lost in darkness above. The air inside was cool and damp, a welcome relief from the desert sun, but charged with an electric tension that made Emma's skin prickle. The walls were covered in ancient paintings and carvings, depictions of strange creatures, celestial bodies, and scenes that looked like rituals performed long ago. Emma's heart raced as she realized they had found more than just a cave. This was a sacred place, a hidden chapter of history preserved beneath the earth. The group spread out, careful not to disturb the fragile environment. Lena pulled out a flashlight and illuminated a series of symbols that matched those on the box they had found earlier. Emma examined them closely, her fingers tracing the lines with reverence. These markings. They tell a story, she said, voice hushed. A story about this place and its power. Jake frowned, scanning the carvings. Power? Like what? Emma hesitated, recalling Ethan's theories about ancient technologies and hidden knowledge. Something that could change how we understand the world, maybe even how we use energy. Mark stepped closer to a large stone altar in the center of the cavern. On it rested a crystal shard, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The pendant they had found earlier began to vibrate softly against Emma's chest. She took a tentative step toward the altar, feeling the pulse of energy growing stronger. This has to be connected, she whispered. Suddenly, the cavern trembled, dust cascading from the ceiling. A low rumble echoed through the chamber, and the ground shifted beneath their feet. Panic surged as Emma grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him back. We need to get out, now. But before they could move, a hidden mechanism triggered, revealing a narrow passage descending deeper into the earth. The walls around them glowed faintly, illuminating steps carved from stone. Despite the danger, curiosity pushed Emma forward. This is what we came for, she said firmly. We have to see where it leads. The others exchanged uneasy glances but followed. The passage spiraled down into darkness, the air growing cooler and heavier with each step. Emma's flashlight revealed more symbols etched into the walls, their meaning still elusive but undeniably ancient. The silence was broken only by the sound of their breathing and footsteps. Suddenly, the passage opened into an enormous subterranean chamber bathed in a soft, ethereal light. At its center stood a massive machine, unlike anything Emma had ever seen. It pulsed with energy, wires and crystals intertwined in a design both alien and beautiful. The room hummed with power, filling Emma with awe and fear. This must be what Ethan was searching for, she breathed. A source of energy lost to time. Jake moved closer, inspecting the machine's controls. It looks unstable. We have to be careful. Lena nodded. We don't know what this thing does or what it's capable of. Mark's eyes were wide with wonder. This changes everything. Emma approached the machine, her hand hovering over a glowing panel. Suddenly, images flashed in her mind, visions of the past, of people who had built this place, of a civilization that had harnessed power far beyond what anyone believed possible. The knowledge was overwhelming, filling her with a sense of responsibility and hope. But the visions also carried warnings. of destruction, sacrifice, and the consequences of misusing such power. Emma stepped back, breathing heavily. "We have to decide what to do with this," she said. "This could save the world, or destroy it." The group sat in silence, the weight of their discovery sinking in. The desert above seemed a distant memory now, replaced by the gravity of the secret they had unearthed. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Emma felt a surge of determination. This journey was no longer just about healing or adventure, it was about protecting a legacy and choosing a future. The unexpected path had led them to a truth greater than any of them had imagined, and the challenges ahead would test their courage and convictions like never before. The discovery of the ancient machine haunted Emma's thoughts as they made their way back from the subterranean chamber, the weight of what they had uncovered pressing heavily on her heart. The desert sun was setting, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape, but Emma's mind was far from the beauty around her. She replayed the visions the machine had shown her, the glory of a lost civilization, the power they had wielded, and the devastating price they had paid. The knowledge was both inspiring and terrifying, a stark reminder that some secrets were buried for a reason. As the group descended the canyon, tensions resurfaced. Jake's cautious nature clashed with Mark's impulsiveness, and even Lena's calm seemed strained. Emma struggled to hold them together, feeling the fragile bonds of friendship stretched thin. The pendant around her neck vibrated softly, a constant reminder of the responsibility she bore. That night, camped beneath a sky bursting with stars, the group gathered around the fire. The flickering flames illuminated their faces, each etched with exhaustion and worry. Emma finally broke the silence. "We need to talk about what we found," she said, her voice steady but heavy. Jake nodded. "It's dangerous. We don't know what this machine can do or how to control it." Mark's frustration boiled over. "We've come this far. We can't just walk away now. Think of what this could mean for the future." Lena placed a hand on Mark's arm, grounding him. "It's not just about what we want. It's about what's right." Emma felt the weight of their words, the conflicting emotions swirling like a storm. She knew that the choice ahead was more than scientific or adventurous, it was deeply personal. Memories of Ethan flooded back, his passion, his warnings, and the sacrifices he had made. Emma's voice broke as she spoke. Ethan believed this power could change the world, but he also feared what it might cost. We have to honor that. The night grew darker, and with it, the emotional tension deepened. Suddenly, a distant howl echoed through the canyon, breaking the fragile calm. The group tensed, eyes scanning the shadows. The desert was alive with unseen dangers, and the vulnerability of their situation hit home. Emma's heart pounded as she realized that the greatest challenges were not just the harsh environment or ancient machines, they were the fears and doubts within themselves. The next day brought new trials. The group set out with heavy hearts and cautious steps, the path forward uncertain. As they navigated the shifting sands and jagged rocks, Emma noticed changes in her friends. Jake's vigilance had turned to obsession, his eyes scanning constantly for threats. Mark's bravado masked a growing anxiety, and Lena's calm was tinged with quiet despair. Emma herself felt the strain, her resolve tested by the enormity of their mission. The desert seemed to mirror their inner turmoil, beautiful but unforgiving, full of secrets and shadows. As they reached a high ridge overlooking the valley, Emma paused. Below them stretched the vast expanse of Death Valley, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken and the unknown still ahead. She turned to her friends, her voice soft but firm. "We have a choice. We can walk away and leave this power buried, or we can face the risks and try to use it for good." The group exchanged glances, the decision weighing heavily on each of them. Suddenly, Mark stepped forward, his usual cockiness replaced by a somber determination. "I'm in. We owe it to Ethan, and to ourselves, to see this through." Jake hesitated but then nodded. "Me too. But we do this carefully, no reckless moves." Lena smiled faintly. "Together." Emma felt a surge of hope, the bonds between them strengthened by shared purpose. But as they prepared to descend into the valley once more, the pendant around her neck pulsed sharply. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath their feet, and a deep rumble echoed through the canyon walls. Rocks tumbled, and the path behind them collapsed, cutting off their retreat. Panic surged through the group. Emma's heart raced as she realized they were trapped. The desert had revealed its harshest trial yet, not just a test of courage, but a crucible of trust and sacrifice. In the days that followed, as they searched for a way out, the group faced physical dangers and emotional fractures. Arguments erupted, fears spilled into anger, and the strain threatened to tear them apart. But amidst the turmoil, moments of compassion and courage shone through. Emma found herself stepping into a new role, not just a leader, but a healer and anchor for her friends. One night, as they huddled together for warmth, Emma shared a memory of Ethan, his words a balm for their wounds. He always said that even in the darkest moments, there's a light that guides us. We have to find it. Slowly, hope rekindled, and the group forged a fragile unity. Together, they uncovered hidden paths and ancient clues that hinted at a way forward. The emotional climax of their journey was not just the discovery of the machine or the perilous terrain, it was the revelation of their own strength and the power of love, trust, and sacrifice. Emma realized that the true legacy of their adventure was not the secrets they uncovered, but the bonds they had forged and the lessons they had learned. As the sun rose on the seventh day trapped in the canyon, the group finally found an exit, a narrow passage carved by centuries of water flow. Emerging into the blinding light, they collapsed onto the hot sand, exhausted but triumphant. Emma looked back at the canyon, a mix of relief and sadness washing over her. The desert had tested them in ways they could never have imagined, revealing both the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. As they began the long trek home, Emma clutched the pendant tightly, its pulse now steady and comforting. She knew their journey was far from over, but the emotional climax had transformed them all. The story they would tell was not just about discovery or survival, it was about hope, sacrifice, and the unbreakable ties of friendship and love that guide us through even the darkest valleys. The sun rose slowly over the endless expanse of Death Valley, casting a warm golden glow on the weary group as they finally began their journey back toward civilization. Emma's legs ached, and her skin was sunburned, but her spirit was lighter than it had been in weeks. The trials they had endured, the sandstorms, the hidden chambers, the emotional struggles, felt like distant echoes now, replaced by a newfound clarity and purpose. As they walked, the pendant around Emma's neck seemed to pulse with a quiet strength, a reminder of the path they had chosen and the legacy they carried. The journey back was quieter than their hike in. Each step was measured, thoughtful, as if the desert itself had taught them patience and respect. Jake, once the cautious skeptic, now moved with a steady determination, his eyes reflecting a deeper understanding of what mattered. Mark's bravado had softened into genuine humility, and Lena's calm steadiness became the glue holding them all together. Emma glanced at her friends, feeling a profound gratitude. They had come through the worst and were still united, changed but stronger. The landscape around them unfolded like a living tapestry, rocky ridges, shimmering salt flats, and distant mountain peaks painted with hues of orange and purple. The desert's harsh beauty was no longer intimidating but inspiring. It was a reminder that life, like this vast wilderness, was full of contrasts, danger and beauty, despair and hope, endings and new beginnings. As they neared the edge of the valley, Emma's thoughts turned inward. The pendant, the ancient machine, Ethan's legacy, each piece fit together like a puzzle that was more than just about science or history. It was about human connection, sacrifice, and the choices that define us. Sitting on a weathered rock, Emma pulled out the worn papers from the box, reading Ethan's final notes one last time. His words were filled with passion and caution, a testament to the man who had devoted his life to uncovering truths while warning of the costs. True power, he had written, comes not from control but from understanding and respect. We must choose wisely, for the future depends on it. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. She knew that their discovery could change the world, but only if handled with care and humility. The lessons they had learned in the desert were lessons for life, about love, family, sacrifice, and the courage to face the unknown. That evening, as they reached the small town at the edge of Death Valley, the friends gathered in a quiet diner, sharing a simple meal and stories of their journey. The noise of everyday life seemed distant compared to the silence of the desert, but the bonds they had forged were real and lasting. Emma looked around the table, seeing not just friends but a chosen family, each transformed by the journey. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She thought silently, wishing she could share this moment with others who needed hope. As the night deepened, Emma found a quiet spot outside, looking up at the stars that had guided them through the darkest hours. The sky was vast and unchanging, a reminder of the bigger picture, the endless cycle of life, death, and renewal. In that moment, she understood that their story was not just about discovery but about the human spirit's resilience and capacity for love. The desert had tested them, but it had also given them a gift, the knowledge that even in the harshest places, hope can flourish and love will always lead the way. Emma's journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next, armed with the lessons of the past and the strength of the bonds they had formed. Life was full of surprises, but she knew now that the greatest power was the one they carried inside themselves, the power to choose hope, to forgive, and to move forward. As she turned back toward her friends, Emma smiled, feeling the promise of new beginnings in the air. The desert had changed them all, but it had also shown them the way home. The days following their return from Death Valley felt surreal to Emma and the group. The familiar hum of city life contrasted sharply with the raw, unfiltered reality of the desert they had left behind. Yet, something within each of them had shifted irrevocably. Emma found herself waking early, compelled to document everything they'd experienced, the symbols, the ancient technology, the emotional trials. The knowledge they had uncovered wasn't just a discovery, it was a responsibility. She pored over Ethan's notes again, piecing together fragments that had previously escaped her understanding. His warnings about the power they'd found echoed louder in her mind. The world outside might never believe the truth, but that didn't lessen its importance. Jake, too, was grappling with his own transformation. The cautious man who had once doubted every step now spoke with a newfound conviction. He began researching alternative energy sources, driven by the vision of what the ancient machine might represent for humanity's future. Mark, whose bravado had masked deeper insecurities, surprised everyone by volunteering to speak publicly about their journey. He wanted the world to understand the stakes, not just the danger, but the hope that could arise from such discoveries. Lena quietly became the group's emotional anchor. Her calm presence and steady optimism helped them navigate the flood of media attention and skeptical inquiries. She reminded them of the lessons learned in the desert, the importance of trust, patience, and unity. For Emma, the hardest part was reconciling the weight of their secret with the world's hunger for answers. Scientists, reporters, and conspiracy theorists clamored for details, but the group knew that some truths needed protection. The pendant around Emma's neck, once a source of mystery, now felt like a talisman, a reminder of their pact to safeguard what they had found. One evening, as Emma sat by her window, she received a message that chilled her to the bone, an anonymous warning demanding they stop their investigations or face consequences. The shadow of danger had followed them out of the desert. Fear mingled with resolve. The ancient power wasn't just a scientific marvel, it was a threat to those who sought to control or exploit it. Emma gathered the group, and they made a pact to proceed with caution, guided by the principles Ethan had lived by. They would protect the knowledge, share it only when the world was ready, and above all, preserve the bonds that had carried them through the darkest hours. Their journey became a delicate dance of revelation and secrecy, hope and fear. Yet, through it all, Emma felt a deepening sense of purpose. She understood that life's greatest challenges often came disguised as endings, but with courage and love, new beginnings could rise from the ashes. The pendant pulsed softly, a heartbeat that echoed their shared promise. Emma looked toward the horizon, ready to face whatever came next. The desert had changed them forever, but it had also given them the strength to shape their own destinies. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She wondered again, knowing the answer was within all of them, the unyielding power of hope. The hum of the city felt suffocating after the vast openness of Death Valley, but Emma knew there was no turning back. The group had returned with more questions than answers, and the weight of the secret they carried seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. Despite the comfort of familiar surroundings, an invisible tension hung in the air, thick and unyielding. It started small, glitches in their equipment, a shadowy figure spotted near their research facility, cryptic phone calls with no one on the other end. The warnings that came after their return were no longer just words on a screen, they were real, tangible threats encroaching on every aspect of their lives. Emma sat in her apartment late at night, staring at the pendant that now rested on her desk. Its steady pulse was a lifeline in the storm of uncertainty swirling around her. The energy it radiated seemed to hum in rhythm with her own heartbeat, a reminder that the ancient power was not just a relic of the past but a force alive in the present. Jake paced nearby, his usual calm shattered by frustration. "They're watching us," he muttered, eyes darting to every noise. "We can't trust anyone anymore. Whoever's behind this knows more than we do." Mark, ever the skeptic, shrugged but didn't deny the unease creeping into their conversations. "Maybe it's just paranoia. We're on edge after everything." Lena, sitting quietly in the corner, shook her head. "No, it's real. We're dealing with forces beyond our understanding." The group had become a tight-knit unit, bound by shared danger and mutual trust, but the cracks were starting to show. Emma's thoughts drifted back to Ethan's warnings, about power, sacrifice, and the fine line between discovery and destruction. She felt the responsibility settle heavier on her shoulders each day. Then came the break-in. One morning, Emma arrived at their makeshift lab to find drawers pulled open, papers scattered, and the pendant missing. Panic surged through her veins as she realized the ancient artifact, the key to everything, was in someone else's hands. The group reconvened immediately, faces pale with shock and fear. Jake slammed his fist on the table. "We've been compromised. We have to act." Emma clenched her jaw, determination replacing dread. "We can't let this fall into the wrong hands. We need to find it before it's too late." The search led them into a shadowy world of secrets and lies, a web of corporate interests, government agents, and rival factions all desperate to harness the power the desert had hidden for centuries. Emma discovered allies in unexpected places, scientists who believed in their cause, whistleblowers risking everything to expose corruption, and even a few enigmatic strangers who seemed to know more than they let on. The line between friend and foe blurred, forcing the group to question their own instincts and loyalties. Emma's leadership was tested like never before. Each decision felt like walking a tightrope, balancing the safety of her friends against the greater good they sought to protect. Sleepless nights gave way to moments of breakthrough, as the group uncovered clues hidden within Ethan's notes and the symbols etched in the cave. The pendant's pulse grew stronger, guiding them toward a revelation that could either save the world or plunge it into chaos. In one harrowing moment, Emma confronted the thief, a shadowy figure cloaked in secrecy who revealed a painful truth: the power they sought was tied not just to ancient technology but to human nature itself, with all its flaws and potential for both greatness and destruction. The encounter shook Emma to her core, forcing her to grapple with the cost of their quest and the sacrifices yet to come. As the story unfolded, the group realized that the unseen forces threatening them were as much within their own hearts as in the world around them. Trust had to be rebuilt, fears faced, and courage summoned from deep within. The desert's harsh lessons echoed in every choice they made, a reminder that even the greatest power required humility and wisdom. Emma's resolve hardened. She knew the road ahead would be perilous, but she also understood that the greatest discovery was not the machine or the pendant, it was the strength they found in each other. With renewed purpose, the group prepared to face the challenges ahead, aware that the fate of their discovery, and perhaps the world, rested in their hands. The pulse of the pendant was steady now, a beacon of hope amid the shadows. Emma glanced around at her friends, feeling the unspoken bond that had carried them this far. "No matter what comes next," she said softly, "we face it together." The desert had tested them, broken them, and remade them. Now, they were ready to fight for the future they believed in, even if it meant facing the unseen forces that sought to tear them apart. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma whispered into the night, knowing the answer was the unbreakable human spirit that had guided her from the very beginning. The weeks following the theft of the pendant were some of the most intense and exhausting Emma and her team had ever faced. The city's neon glow had lost its luster, replaced by a grim determination that settled in their bones like desert dust. Every lead, every whispered rumor, every shadow that flickered just beyond their sight, pulled them deeper into a world they barely understood yet couldn't escape. Emma sat hunched over her laptop, eyes red from sleepless nights, when a sudden ping startled her. An encrypted message had come through from an unknown source. The message contained coordinates and a single line: "The truth lies beneath the sands." Heart pounding, Emma called the others immediately. They agreed to meet at the edge of Death Valley at dawn. The desert, which had once been a place of discovery and peril, was now a battleground for hidden forces, and they were determined to uncover the secret that had already cost them so much. Arriving under the faint blush of early morning, the group packed lightly, aware that this journey could be their last. The air was dry and still, the vast silence broken only by their footsteps crunching on the cracked earth. As they trekked toward the coordinates, memories of their past struggles mingled with the rising sun, painting a portrait of resilience and hope. The landscape shifted around them, barren cliffs giving way to rocky outcrops and ancient ruins half buried by centuries of sand. It was here, at the edge of a forgotten canyon, that they discovered a hidden entrance, an ancient door carved into the stone, its surface etched with symbols matching those in Ethan's notes. The pendant glowed faintly, reacting to the ancient magic embedded in the stonework. With trembling hands, Emma traced the symbols and pressed the pendant against the door. A low rumble echoed through the canyon as the stone shifted, revealing a dark passage descending into the earth. The group exchanged nervous glances but stepped inside, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The air was cool and still, filled with the scent of earth and secrets long kept. As they ventured deeper, walls adorned with murals depicted a civilization lost to time, a people who had harnessed an energy source far beyond modern understanding. Scenes of triumph and tragedy told a story of ambition, power, and ultimately, downfall. Emma felt a strange connection to the ancient artisans who had poured their lives into these carvings, a reminder that human nature remained constant across millennia. At the heart of the chamber lay a massive device, similar yet more complex than the machine they had discovered before. It hummed with energy, powered by a crystal the size of a fist, pulsing in rhythm with the pendant. Suddenly, a holographic figure flickered to life, a projection of the civilization's last leader. His voice was calm but grave as he spoke of the technology's power and the dangers of misuse. "We built this to protect our world, not to dominate it," the hologram said. "But pride and greed led to our ruin. We hope that those who find this will learn from our mistakes." The revelation hit Emma with full force. This was not just a discovery but a warning, a legacy encoded in time for anyone willing to listen. The pendant's pulse grew stronger, syncing with the crystal's energy, illuminating a pathway deeper into the chamber. Emma and her friends followed, uncovering scrolls and devices that hinted at ways to harness the power safely, balancing innovation with respect. The weight of responsibility pressed on Emma's chest, but so did a surge of hope. They were standing at the threshold of a new era, one where humanity could choose between repeating history or forging a better path. As they prepared to leave, Emma took one last look at the murals, a silent vow forming in her heart. The story of this lost civilization would not end in darkness, it would be a beacon, guiding them all forward. Back in the daylight, the group knew their mission had evolved. They were no longer just explorers but guardians of a profound secret. The struggle ahead would be greater than any they had faced, but together, they held the key to change. Emma's voice broke through the quiet as she turned to her friends. This is our chance, to honor the past, protect the present, and shape the future. We can't fail. The desert wind carried her words across the valley, a promise etched into the sands that even Elon Musk would find astonishing, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the boundless power of hope. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma whispered, the answer now clearer than ever, the belief that even in the darkest places, light can be found. The revelation beneath Death Valley had ignited a fire within Emma and her team, but it had also set off a chain reaction they had not anticipated. The delicate balance between hope and danger began to tip, pulling them into a whirlwind of events that tested every ounce of their resolve. In the days following their discovery, news of strange anomalies began to surface across the globe, unexplained energy surges, power fluctuations, and mysterious signals picked up by scientific instruments. It was as if the ancient technology they had awakened was reaching out beyond the desert, stirring the world in ways no one could yet comprehend. Emma watched the news with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The pendant on her neck pulsed steadily, a silent reminder of the power now coursing through unseen channels. The group gathered frequently, each meeting charged with urgency as they tried to make sense of the rapidly changing landscape. Jake was deeply involved in analyzing data, working late into the night to track the energy signatures that seemed linked to their discovery. Mark, ever the spokesperson, grappled with managing the media frenzy and public curiosity that was growing by the day. Lena's calm presence helped ground them all, reminding the team to stay focused amidst the chaos. But not everyone welcomed the unfolding changes. Governments and corporations saw opportunity and threat in equal measure. The delicate secrecy the group had tried to maintain was shattered by leaks and misinformation campaigns designed to control the narrative. Emma felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier. Their discovery had become a lightning rod, attracting those who sought to harness the power for their own ends. One evening, as Emma reviewed Ethan's notes once again, a chilling realization dawned: the ancient technology was not just a source of clean energy or advanced knowledge, it was a catalyst for transformation, capable of altering the very fabric of reality if misused. The risks were greater than they had imagined. A meeting was called in a discreet location, away from prying eyes and ears. The group knew they needed to form alliances, to bring trustworthy minds into the fold. Scientists, ethicists, and visionaries gathered, united by a common goal to unlock the potential of the discovery without unleashing catastrophe. The discussions were intense, filled with conflicting opinions and moral dilemmas. How much should be revealed? Could humanity handle such power responsibly? Emma found herself at the center of the debate, her voice steady but passionate. She spoke of the lessons learned in the desert, the importance of humility, respect, and the human capacity for growth. Slowly, a consensus began to form, transparency balanced with caution, innovation coupled with ethical oversight. Yet, as progress was made, the shadow of opposition loomed larger. A faction emerged, intent on seizing the technology for domination and control. Threats escalated from veiled warnings to open sabotage. The group's unity was tested like never before. Emma faced moments of doubt and fear, but each time she remembered the desert's harsh lessons. Strength was not the absence of fear but the courage to confront it. The pendant's steady pulse became her anchor, a source of inner power to face the storm. In a daring move, Emma and her friends launched a public campaign, sharing their story with the world to build awareness and support. The response was overwhelming, people inspired by their courage, eager to embrace a future shaped by hope rather than fear. The tides began to turn. At the same time, Emma received a message from an unexpected ally. A former rival who had come to understand the stakes and offered critical assistance. Trust, once shattered, was slowly being rebuilt. As tensions reached a breaking point, the group prepared for what could be their greatest challenge yet. The ancient technology had awakened forces beyond their control, but they were ready to meet the moment. Together, they stood on the edge of history, knowing that their choices would define the future. The desert's silent witness had revealed its secrets, and now it was up to them to ensure that the power they held was a force for good. Emma looked around at her friends, her voice firm with conviction. This is our tipping point. We either rise together or fall divided. I choose to believe in us. The pulse of the pendant echoed her words, a beacon of hope shining through the darkness. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma asked herself once more, the answer unwavering, the belief that together, they could change the world. The world outside seemed to spiral faster each day, caught between excitement and fear as Emma and her team's discovery rippled through society. The ancient technology, once buried beneath Death Valley's sands, had become a catalyst for upheaval on a global scale. Governments scrambled to claim a stake, corporations maneuvered for control, and public opinion swung wildly between awe and suspicion. For Emma, the pressure was relentless. The lines between ally and adversary blurred, forcing the group to navigate a labyrinth of shifting loyalties and moral ambiguity. The delicate balance they had fought to maintain threatened to unravel completely. It began with a subtle breach. Late one night, Emma's phone buzzed with an urgent message. A key piece of research had been stolen from their secure archive. The perpetrator was unknown, but the implications were clear: someone was willing to cross any line to gain an advantage. The group convened immediately, tension thick in the air. Jake's usually measured demeanor cracked under the weight of betrayal. "We're being undermined from within," he said, eyes sharp and wary. Mark, ever the pragmatist, pushed for increased security and stricter controls, but Lena warned against becoming prisoners of fear. Emma felt the pull between caution and action, knowing that their greatest strength lay in trust, yet trust had been fractured. As they worked to track the breach, unexpected alliances emerged. A whistleblower from a powerful corporation reached out, offering information in exchange for protection. The group hesitated but recognized the opportunity to uncover the shadow network working against them. Through a series of encrypted communications, Emma pieced together a web of influence, secret meetings, covert operations, and a faction determined to weaponize the ancient power. The stakes were higher than ever. Meanwhile, the public's fascination with the discovery morphed into obsession. Conspiracy theories flourished online, while protests erupted demanding transparency or calling for the technology's destruction. Emma grappled with the growing chasm between the world's hope and its fear. The media spotlight intensified, and with it came scrutiny and personal attacks. The team's relationships frayed under the strain. Emma and Jake clashed over strategy, Mark's impatience threatened to alienate allies, Lena struggled to maintain unity amidst rising tensions. Yet, amidst the chaos, moments of humanity shone through. Emma found solace in small acts, a shared meal, a quiet conversation, a laugh breaking through the tension. These were the threads that held them together, reminding her of why they embarked on this journey. One night, as Emma sifted through data, a pattern emerged, energy spikes aligning with certain geopolitical events. It became clear that the ancient technology was influencing the global balance of power in unpredictable ways. The realization struck like a thunderbolt: their discovery was no longer just a scientific breakthrough, it was a force reshaping history. Faced with this new reality, the group made a bold decision. They would cross lines they had vowed to respect, infiltrating the shadow networks to expose and dismantle them from within. The mission was dangerous, fraught with risk, but necessary. Emma led the operation with steely resolve, knowing that the future hinged on their success. The infiltration brought them face to face with the harsh truths of human ambition and greed. Trust was scarce, and every move carried consequences. Yet, it also revealed unexpected kindness and courage in unlikely places. The team learned that the battle for the ancient power was as much internal as external, a struggle between fear and hope within themselves and the world. As the operation reached its climax, Emma stood on the edge of a decision that would change everything. The lines they crossed were no longer just physical but ethical and emotional. The weight of their choices pressed down, but so did the promise of a better future. In the quiet moments before action, Emma whispered to herself, What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer came clear, the unshakable belief that light can prevail in the darkest places, if only we dare to hold on to it. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The night air was heavy with anticipation as Emma and her team prepared to dive deeper into the labyrinth of secrets that surrounded the ancient technology. The infiltration mission had uncovered fragments of a larger puzzle, hidden agendas, suppressed histories, and truths carefully buried beneath layers of deception. Emma could feel the weight of discovery pressing down on her, but also the thrill of uncovering what had long been concealed. The group gathered in a secluded safe house, its walls lined with maps, digital screens, and hastily scribbled notes. The atmosphere buzzed with a tense energy, a mixture of hope and exhaustion. Emma traced a finger along a faded manuscript they had recently acquired, its text describing a civilization whose mastery of energy had been both a blessing and a curse. The stories spoke of a hidden chamber, a core of knowledge so profound it had the power to reshape humanity's understanding of itself. But the manuscript warned of those who sought to control that power for selfish gain. As the team pieced together clues from the manuscript and their own research, Emma's mind raced with questions. What had really happened to this ancient civilization? How much had been lost, and how much was still waiting to be found? The pendant on her neck thrummed softly, a constant reminder of the connection they shared with the past. Late into the night, Jake analyzed data intercepted from encrypted channels linked to the Shadow faction. His findings painted a disturbing picture. Not only were these forces actively working to manipulate the technology, but they had already begun to implement plans that could trigger catastrophic consequences. Mark proposed reaching out to global leaders, hoping that transparency could prevent disaster. Lena cautioned that too much exposure might accelerate the chaos. Emma knew they were caught between a rock and a hard place, but she also understood that action was imperative. A breakthrough came when Lena uncovered a secret map embedded within the ancient murals they had studied. The map pointed to a location deep within the desert, one that had eluded explorers for centuries. It was said to house the core of the civilization's power, the very heart of the technology that had changed the course of history. The team prepared for a journey into the unknown once more, aware that this could be their most dangerous expedition yet. As they ventured into the desert's scorching heat, memories of past trials mingled with the stark beauty of the landscape. Every step brought them closer to answers, and to the truth that could either save or destroy them all. Upon reaching the hidden site, they discovered a vast underground complex, its walls lined with inscriptions and relics that spoke of wisdom, sacrifice, and warning. The pendant's pulse grew stronger, illuminating symbols that guided them through the darkness. Deep inside, they found a chamber containing an ancient console, a control center designed to regulate the energy source that powered the civilization's wonders. As Emma approached, the console activated, projecting a holographic record left by the civilization's final guardian. His voice carried a message of hope and caution, emphasizing the need for balance between ambition and humility. The record revealed that the technology was not merely a tool but a living force intertwined with human consciousness. It required guardianship grounded in empathy and wisdom, or it could spiral into destruction. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Emma's shoulders. She realized that the choices they faced were more than scientific or political, they were deeply moral, touching on the essence of what it meant to be human. The group agreed to protect the knowledge and to work tirelessly to prevent its misuse. They returned to the surface, armed with newfound understanding but also aware of the threats that still loomed. Emma reflected on the journey, the challenges, and the lessons learned. She felt a quiet strength growing within her. A resolve to guide the discovery with care and courage. The world was watching, and the stakes had never been higher. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, Emma whispered to herself the question that had become her mantra: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer was clear, the belief that truth, no matter how hidden, has the power to light the way. The air had shifted since Emma and her team returned from the hidden chamber beneath Death Valley. The knowledge they now held was both a beacon and a burden, illuminating the path forward while casting long shadows of uncertainty. The ancient technology was no longer a distant mystery but a living force with unseen powers weaving through the fabric of their reality. As they resumed their work, subtle disturbances began to manifest, strange glitches in equipment, inexplicable changes in weather patterns, and an eerie feeling of being watched. Emma's instincts told her that they were facing forces beyond their comprehension. The team intensified their efforts to understand these phenomena, combining ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science. Jake focused on decoding energy patterns, while Mark coordinated with global experts to monitor environmental anomalies. Lena's steady hand kept the team grounded, reminding them to remain vigilant but hopeful. One night, as Emma pored over the data, a sudden spike in energy readings caught her attention. The source seemed to originate not from the desert, but from a remote location thousands of miles away. The pattern matched the signature of the ancient technology, but twisted and fragmented, as if corrupted. Alarm bells rang in Emma's mind. Could the power they had uncovered be spreading uncontrollably? The implications were terrifying. Without hesitation, the team planned an urgent expedition to investigate the distant site. Traveling across continents, they found themselves in a dense forest where technology and nature clashed in uneasy balance. There, hidden beneath layers of foliage, lay another relic connected to the ancient civilization, an artifact emitting unstable energy. As Emma reached out to touch it, a surge of visions flooded her mind, glimpses of the past and future intertwined, showing the potential for both salvation and ruin. The experience left her shaken but resolute. The artifact's instability was a warning. The technology's influence was fracturing, and unless contained, it could unleash chaos on a global scale. Back at their base, tensions ran high as the group debated their next move. Some argued for immediate containment measures, while others cautioned that reckless action might worsen the situation. Emma found herself at the crossroads once again, balancing fear with hope, pragmatism with intuition. In the midst of this turmoil, unexpected help arrived. A reclusive scientist with a controversial past offered insights into the technology's deeper nature. She explained that the power was not simply energy, it was a form of consciousness, responding to human emotion and intent. This revelation reframed everything. The ancient technology was alive, sensitive to the choices of those who wielded it. Emma understood that the true challenge was not mastering the power but mastering themselves. The team embraced this new perspective, embarking on a journey of inner exploration as much as outer discovery. They practiced mindfulness and empathy, striving to align their intentions with the technology's needs. Slowly, the disturbances began to subside, and a fragile harmony emerged. Yet the world beyond their circle grew more turbulent. News of unexplained phenomena sparked fear and unrest among the masses. Emma realized that secrecy was no longer an option. They needed to share their knowledge responsibly, guiding humanity toward understanding rather than panic. The task was daunting, but Emma felt a renewed strength fueled by the unseen forces they had come to respect. Standing beneath a star-filled sky, she whispered her enduring question, "What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" The answer resonated deeper than ever, the conviction that connection, between people, between past and future, between heart and mind, could transform even the most hidden forces into light. The fragile peace that Emma and her team had fought to create was beginning to crack. The ancient technology's power, once a promise of transformation and hope, was revealing its complexity in ways none of them had fully anticipated. As the world grew more aware of the discovery, the pressures multiplied, fracturing alliances and testing the limits of trust. The team found themselves navigating not only external threats but also internal conflicts that threatened to unravel their progress. In the days following their latest expedition, tension simmered beneath the surface. Jake, whose expertise had been critical to decoding the technology's signals, grew increasingly frustrated with the pace of progress and what he perceived as cautious hesitation from the others. Mark, focused on public relations and managing growing media attention, felt constrained by the ethical boundaries Emma insisted on. Lena, the team's moral compass, struggled to keep the peace while holding firm to their values. Emma sensed the fractures but refused to let them define the group. She called a meeting, urging everyone to speak openly. What emerged was a torrent of fears, hopes, and doubts laid bare. Jake voiced his impatience, demanding bolder action to harness the technology's potential before it slipped from their control. Mark warned that public trust was fragile, and any misstep could ignite panic or exploitation. Lena pleaded for patience and reflection, reminding them of the lessons from the ancient civilization about balance and humility. Emma listened carefully, understanding that their strength lay in embracing these differences rather than suppressing them. She shared her own fears, the weight of responsibility, the temptation to rush, and the constant question of whether they were doing enough. The conversation stretched long into the night, but it forged a renewed commitment to unity, grounded in honesty and respect. Meanwhile, the world beyond their walls was shifting rapidly. Reports of unusual phenomena increased, and with them, rumors and conspiracy theories. Governments tightened controls, and factions formed, each with its own agenda. The ancient technology had become a fulcrum for power struggles, and Emma knew that their role as guardians was more crucial than ever. As they prepared for their next phase of research, a sudden crisis struck. A key facility housing vital components of their work was sabotaged, plunging the team into emergency mode. The attack was calculated and ruthless, sending a clear message: they were not alone in their quest. Investigations revealed that the saboteurs had access to inside information, deepening suspicions of betrayal. Trust, already fragile, was stretched to its breaking point. Emma faced a pivotal choice: retreat into secrecy and isolation or stand firm and confront the threats head-on. Drawing on the lessons of the desert and the wisdom from the ancient records, she chose courage. The team rallied, reinforcing security and doubling down on transparency with their allies. They reached out to the public with a carefully crafted message, appealing to shared values and the need for collective stewardship of the discovery. The response was mixed: some embraced the call to unity, others remained skeptical or hostile. Yet amid the turmoil, moments of hope glimmered. Communities organized to protect natural resources and promote ethical use of technology. Scientists and artists collaborated to envision futures shaped by empathy and innovation. Emma found strength in these sparks of light, a reminder that even fractures could create new patterns of beauty. One evening, as she stood overlooking the desert horizon, the pendant's pulse echoed softly against her skin. She reflected on how far they had come and the challenges still ahead. The ancient technology was no longer just a tool, it was a mirror, reflecting humanity's fears and dreams back at itself. Emma whispered once more the question that had become her anchor: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This time, the answer was clearer than ever: the unwavering belief that light, even when fractured, could be mended and made whole again. The fragile unity Emma's team had managed to sustain was now under siege from shadows both old and new. The ancient technology they had uncovered was stirring forces beyond their control, forces rooted in fear, greed, and desperation. Across the globe, opposition coalesced into a formidable enemy, shadow networks bent on harnessing the power for their own ends, willing to manipulate, deceive, and destroy to achieve dominance. Emma felt the weight of their mission grow heavier with every passing day. The desert's lessons about resilience and trust echoed in her mind, but now the stakes were exponentially higher. The team worked tirelessly, reinforcing their defenses and seeking allies who could help counteract the rising tide of hostility. Yet the shadows were cunning. Sabotage attempts increased in frequency and sophistication, each designed to undermine their efforts and sow discord. One night, as Emma reviewed security footage, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face, a former colleague turned adversary, someone she had once trusted. The betrayal cut deep, but it also steeled her resolve. Emma understood that the battle was not just against external foes but against the darkness that could take root within. As tensions escalated, the group faced hard truths about the cost of their quest. Relationships strained, and old wounds reopened. Yet amidst the turmoil, moments of unexpected solidarity emerged. A coalition of scientists, activists, and indigenous leaders offered support, sharing knowledge and resources to protect the ancient technology's legacy. Emma embraced these alliances, recognizing that their strength lay in diversity and shared purpose. In the midst of this conflict, a breakthrough arrived. Jake discovered a pattern in the attacks, signals embedded within the sabotage attempts that hinted at a larger plan. Decoding them revealed a countdown to an event of potentially catastrophic consequence, orchestrated by the Shadow faction. Time was running out. The team scrambled to devise a plan, balancing urgency with caution. They knew that any misstep could trigger disaster. Emma took on the mantle of leadership with renewed determination, rallying her friends and allies to stand firm. In the days leading to the countdown, the world held its breath. Emma and her team worked around the clock, their minds and bodies pushed to the limit. The pendant's pulse was a constant companion, a beacon of hope and a reminder of their connection to the ancient power. When the moment arrived, the Shadows unleashed their plan, a coordinated strike aimed at seizing control of the technology's core. The battle was fierce, fought on physical and digital fronts. Emma found herself facing the very heart of the enemy, a confrontation that tested her courage and conviction like never before. Through grit, ingenuity, and the strength of their bonds, the team managed to thwart the attack. The ancient technology's core was secured, and the countdown stopped just in time. The victory was bittersweet. The cost had been high, and the Shadows had not disappeared, they would continue to lurk, waiting for another chance. But Emma saw something else in the aftermath, a renewed commitment from the world to protect and nurture the discovery. The tides were turning. Standing amidst the ruins of conflict, Emma whispered to herself the question that had guided her through every trial: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer resonated stronger than ever, the unyielding belief that even in the darkest shadows, light could rise. After the fierce battle that had nearly shattered everything Emma and her team had built, a cautious calm settled over their world. The ancient technology remained secure, but the scars of conflict were visible in every corner: broken trust, exhausted bodies, and fragile alliances. Yet amid the aftermath, something remarkable began to stir: an awakening. It started with subtle shifts, communities embracing the lessons learned, individuals inspired to act with greater empathy and purpose. The discovery in Death Valley was no longer just a scientific enigma, it was becoming a catalyst for a broader transformation. Emma watched as the ripple effect of their work extended beyond labs and boardrooms into the hearts of ordinary people. Stories emerged of those who, touched by the revelation, found new meaning in their lives, families reunited, neighbors coming together, and once divided groups discovering common ground. The ancient technology, intertwined with human consciousness, seemed to resonate with this awakening, amplifying the collective yearning for connection and understanding. The team reconvened, energized by the changes and ready to embrace the next phase. They expanded their efforts to include education and community outreach, determined to guide humanity's interaction with the powerful legacy they had uncovered. Jake developed new tools to help interpret the technology's signals, focusing on harmony rather than control. Mark spearheaded campaigns to foster dialogue and transparency, breaking down walls of suspicion. Lena's role as mediator became even more vital, bridging divides and nurturing cooperation. Emma herself found new depths of strength within, a quiet confidence rooted in experience and hope. The pendant's gentle pulse was a constant reminder that they were not alone in this journey. One day, a surprise visitor arrived, a historian specializing in ancient cultures, drawn by the team's growing reputation. She brought with her a trove of artifacts and knowledge that deepened their understanding of the civilization that had created the technology. Together, they uncovered tales of rituals and philosophies that emphasized balance, stewardship, and respect for the natural world. These insights enriched the team's mission, grounding their work in a timeless wisdom that transcended science and politics. As the awakening spread, Emma noticed a shift in the world's response. Governments and corporations began to recognize the need for cooperation over competition. Policies promoting sustainability and ethical innovation gained traction. Though challenges remained, the seeds of a new era were being sown. Yet, Emma knew the path forward would not be without obstacles. Old fears and prejudices still lingered, and the shadow networks had not vanished entirely. Vigilance was necessary, but so was faith in humanity's capacity for growth. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the desert, Emma stood with her team reflecting on the journey. The hardships, the victories, the lessons, all converging into a profound sense of purpose. She whispered the question that had become her compass throughout the ordeal: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer was now a chorus of voices: hope, resilience, love, and the unbreakable human spirit. The awakening was just beginning, and Emma was ready to lead the way. The desert winds carried whispers of history as Emma and her team delved deeper into the mysteries of the ancient civilization. Their recent discoveries had opened doors not only to new technology but also to echoes of a past that had been all but erased by time and turmoil. The awakening that had begun was intertwined with these echoes, revealing how the choices of those who came before could shape the destiny of those who followed. Emma felt a profound connection to the stories etched into stone and memory, a sense that the past was not distant but alive, speaking, guiding, warning. Guided by the historian's insights, the team uncovered a hidden archive buried beneath the shifting sands, a repository of knowledge encoded in symbols, artifacts, and holographic records. As they painstakingly pieced together the fragments, they learned of the civilization's rise and fall, marked by brilliance and hubris, love and loss. The record spoke of a pivotal moment when the technology's power threatened to overwhelm its creators, leading to choices that split their society and ultimately led to its collapse. The weight of history pressed heavily on Emma's shoulders. She understood that the patterns of the past echoed into their present struggles, offering lessons that were both cautionary and inspiring. As they decoded the archives, the team faced challenges that tested their resolve. Rival factions sought to claim the knowledge for themselves, and the shadow networks intensified their efforts to disrupt and destabilize. Trust became a precious commodity, and Emma worked tirelessly to build bridges within and beyond her circle. Among the revelations was a message left by the civilization's final leaders, an appeal for unity, compassion, and stewardship. Their words resonated deeply, mirroring the very values Emma and her team were striving to uphold. The pendant she wore seemed to pulse in rhythm with the archive's revelations, a tangible link between past and present. The emotional weight of these discoveries stirred within Emma a renewed sense of purpose and urgency. The past was not merely a story to be told but a call to action. The team organized forums and discussions, inviting voices from around the world to reflect on the lessons of history and envision a shared future. These gatherings sparked dialogues that transcended borders and ideologies, fostering a collective commitment to harnessing the ancient technology with wisdom and care. Yet the journey was not without its shadows. Betrayals and setbacks reminded them of the fragile nature of progress. Emma found herself grappling with doubts and fears, questioning whether their efforts could withstand the forces arrayed against them. In these moments, she returned to her guiding question: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer, hope, glowed like a beacon in the darkness. As the echoes of the past intertwined with the hopes for the future, Emma realized that their story was part of a larger human saga, one of resilience, redemption, and the enduring quest for light amidst shadow. With renewed determination, she led her team onward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The relentless pressure of the journey had brought Emma and her team to what felt like a breaking point. The ancient technology's secrets were slowly unraveling, but so too were the bonds that held the team together. Every step forward was met with new obstacles, both external threats from those who sought to exploit the discovery, and internal struggles born from fatigue, fear, and doubt. Emma felt the weight of leadership more keenly than ever. The successes they had achieved were overshadowed by the growing awareness that the cost might be greater than they had imagined. The shadow networks, emboldened by their previous failures, had intensified their campaigns of disruption and deception. Emma watched as alliances she had worked so hard to build began to fracture under the strain. Jake's frustration deepened, his once steady focus wavering. Mark wrestled with the demands of public scrutiny, his optimism tempered by harsh realities. Lena bore the emotional toll silently, her strength a quiet anchor amid the storm. In a pivotal meeting, tensions erupted. Accusations flew, trust was questioned, and the team's unity seemed to unravel before Emma's eyes. It was a moment she had feared, when the very people she depended on could become casualties of the struggle. Yet amid the chaos, Emma's resolve crystallized. She refused to let despair dictate their fate. Drawing on the lessons of the ancient civilization and the awakening they had witnessed, she called for a pause, a chance to reconnect with the core values that had brought them together. The team retreated to the desert's edge, seeking solace in the vastness and silence. There, away from the noise and conflict, they confronted their fears and hopes openly. Emma shared her own vulnerabilities, inviting the others to do the same. This act of honesty became a turning point. Slowly, wounds began to heal, and a renewed sense of purpose emerged. The team recommitted to their mission with clarity and humility, recognizing that strength came not from control but from trust and collaboration. As they returned to their work, Emma felt the pendants pull steady and strong against her chest, a reminder of the journey's meaning. The ancient technology was not just a tool but a reflection of their humanity, with all its fragility and potential. The breaking point had revealed the depths of their resilience and the power of connection. Emma's guiding question echoed once more in her mind: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer was no longer a solitary beacon but a chorus, a shared commitment to hope, love, and the unbreakable bonds that sustain them all. The desert sun cast long shadows over the horizon as Emma and her team prepared for what would be the most critical moment of their journey. The ancient technology, once shrouded in mystery, was now on the brink of revealing its final secret, a truth that could redefine everything they thought they knew. Months of relentless research, countless challenges, and profound personal transformations had led to this point. The air was thick with anticipation and the weight of responsibility. The team gathered in the heart of their base, surrounded by artifacts and data that told the story of a civilization far ahead of its time, yet deeply connected to the human spirit. The historian's translations had unlocked a new chamber within the underground archive, revealing an intricate mechanism designed not just for power but for awakening, a device that promised to bridge the gap between human consciousness and the technology's enigmatic energy. As Emma activated the mechanism, a wave of light and sound enveloped the room. The pendant she wore pulsed in harmony, connecting her to the flow of information streaming through the device. Visions unfolded before her eyes, scenes of ancient people living in harmony with their world, moments of joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy. She saw the civilization's rise, its mistakes, and its ultimate hope, that future generations would learn from their experience. The revelation was profound. The technology was not merely a tool for advancement but a living archive of wisdom, designed to evolve alongside humanity's growth. It was a mirror reflecting the best and worst of human nature, challenging those who encountered it to choose the path of compassion, humility, and stewardship. The emotional impact was overwhelming. Emma felt tears streaming down her face as she realized the enormity of their task, not just to protect the technology but to nurture the values it embodied. The team members shared the experience, each touched in their own way by the profound connection to the past and future intertwined. The final revelation brought clarity and purpose, dissolving doubts and fears. It was a call to action and a promise of hope. As they emerged from the chamber, Emma addressed her team and the growing community of allies and supporters. She spoke of the journey they had shared, the challenges they had overcome, and the responsibility that now rested on their shoulders. The ancient technology was a gift and a test, a chance to reshape the world through empathy, collaboration, and respect for life. The world listened, the message resonating across borders and cultures. The shadows that had once threatened to engulf their work began to recede, replaced by a collective determination to build a future worthy of the past's legacy. In that moment, Emma whispered the question that had guided her through every trial: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This time, the answer was unanimous: love, the enduring force that connects, heals, and transforms. The final revelation was not the end but a new beginning, a light shining through the desert, guiding humanity toward its greatest potential. The dawn broke over the desert, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, signaling not just the start of a new day but the beginning of a new era. Emma stood at the crest of a dune, the pendant resting warm against her chest, its pulse steady like the heartbeat of the world itself. Behind her, the team gathered, a mix of weariness and hope reflected in their eyes. The journey they had undertaken. From the first shocking discovery in Death Valley to the final revelation, had transformed them, and through them, the world. The ancient technology, once a mystery wrapped in shadow and danger, had become a beacon of possibility. It challenged humanity to rise above old fears and divisions, to embrace unity and purpose. Governments, communities, and individuals were now coming together with a shared vision, a commitment to stewardship, innovation, and compassion. Emma reflected on the countless moments of doubt, conflict, and triumph that had led to this day. The fractures and shadows, the awakening and revelations, all threads woven into a tapestry of growth and resilience. She thought of the people who had stood by her side, their courage and kindness lighting the darkest paths. The team had changed, matured, and forged bonds that would endure beyond this mission. The world, too, was changing. Policies were shifting toward sustainability, education embraced the lessons of the past, and technology was approached with a new reverence for life's delicate balance. Emma's heart swelled with cautious optimism. The future was uncertain, as all futures are, but it was now shaped by awareness and care. As she looked out over the desert, she saw not just endless sand and sky but the promise of possibility, a vast canvas waiting for humanity's next story. Turning to her team, Emma spoke quietly but firmly: this is just the beginning. We have been entrusted with a legacy, and it's our responsibility to honor it. Together, we will face whatever comes next. The pendant's pulse quickened in response, a silent affirmation of their shared path. In the days that followed, Emma and her team continued their work, nurturing partnerships, expanding research, and fostering dialogue worldwide. They embraced their roles not just as scientists or leaders, but as custodians of a dream, one where technology and humanity flourished hand in hand. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Emma found a quiet moment alone. She whispered once more the question that had guided her through every challenge: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This time, the answer came from deep within, clear and unwavering: love. Love for the people, the planet, and the possibilities that lay ahead. As stars began to twinkle in the vast desert sky, Emma felt a profound peace. The story of the hikers who had stumbled upon a secret in Death Valley had become a story of humanity itself, of loss and hope, darkness and light, endings and new beginnings. And with that, a new dawn truly had arrived. The days following the dawn of their new mission were filled with a quiet determination that resonated deeply within Emma and her team. Though the world had begun to shift, embracing the lessons of the past and the promise of the ancient technology, the horizon still held mysteries, challenges that were yet unseen and opportunities waiting to be seized. Emma knew that the journey was far from over. The desert, with its endless expanse of sand and sky, reminded her that while they had come far, there was always more to explore, more to understand, and more to protect. As the team expanded their outreach, partnerships flourished in unexpected places. Indigenous communities, scientists, policymakers, and everyday people united in a shared cause. Together, they formed networks that transcended borders and ideologies, focusing on healing the planet and advancing human potential with humility and respect. Emma often marveled at how a chance discovery in Death Valley had blossomed into a global movement, a testament to the power of curiosity and courage. One morning, Emma received a message that stirred both excitement and caution. A remote research outpost in the Arctic Circle had detected unusual energy readings, patterns that echoed the ancient technology's unique signature. The outpost's scientists reached out for collaboration, hoping Emma's team could help decipher what might be a related phenomenon. The news ignited a spark of adventure. If the technology had counterparts beyond the desert, it meant the ancient civilization's reach and influence was far greater than anyone had imagined. The team quickly mobilized, balancing their ongoing projects with preparations for the expedition north. Jake led the technical team in adapting equipment for the harsh Arctic environment, while Lena coordinated with local experts to ensure cultural sensitivity and environmental responsibility. Mark handled the media and public relations, carefully managing the narrative to avoid panic while keeping global interest engaged. Emma, as always, was the anchor, her calm focus guiding the team through the whirlwind of logistics and anticipation. As the plane descended over the icy tundra, Emma felt the familiar rush of awe that came with stepping into the unknown. The landscape was stark and beautiful, a world of white silence broken only by the distant calls of Arctic wildlife. The outpost was a cluster of sturdy, insulated buildings, humming quietly against the cold. Scientists welcomed the team with a mix of curiosity and relief. The energy readings had puzzled them for weeks. Working together, they uncovered a network of crystalline formations buried beneath the permafrost, structures that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly light. The crystals resonated with the same frequencies Emma's team had detected in Death Valley, suggesting a shared origin or purpose. As they studied the formations, they realized the crystals were part of an ancient system designed to store and transmit knowledge across vast distances and eras, a natural supercomputer, woven into the fabric of the Earth itself. The implications were staggering. The ancient civilization had not only crafted advanced technology but had also integrated it seamlessly with the planet, creating a legacy that was as much ecological as it was scientific. Emma felt a profound respect for the visionaries who had come before, a people who understood the delicate balance between innovation and stewardship. But this discovery also raised urgent questions. What had caused the civilization's downfall? Could the reactivation of these systems trigger unintended consequences? And who else might be watching, waiting to exploit this newfound power? The shadows of past conflicts lingered at the edges of their optimism. Emma gathered the combined teams for a meeting beneath the glow of the Arctic twilight. She spoke candidly about the challenges ahead, emphasizing the importance of collaboration, vigilance, and ethical responsibility. The team shared their fears and hopes, their resolve solidifying into a collective commitment to protect this legacy. During late-night discussions and long days in the field, Emma found herself reflecting on the journey from the first startling find in the desert to this moment in the frozen north. Each step had taught her about resilience, trust, and the enduring power of human connection. The pendant's pulse remained steady, a constant companion through every trial. One evening, standing outside the outpost beneath the shimmering northern lights, Emma whispered again the question that had become her mantra: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer, as it had been from the beginning, was clear: hope. Hope not just for survival, but for flourishing, hope that humanity could rise to the challenge and honor the profound gift they had been given. The Arctic expedition opened new pathways of understanding. Collaborating with indigenous elders, Emma's team learned how traditional knowledge complemented their scientific discoveries, revealing a holistic perspective on the technology and its place within the natural world. The elders spoke of cycles of renewal and respect, reminding everyone that progress meant harmony, not domination. Back at their base, Emma and her team integrated these insights, developing protocols that prioritized sustainability and inclusivity. They advocated for global policies that recognized the rights of nature and indigenous peoples, striving to ensure that the ancient technology would be used to heal, not harm. As weeks turned into months, the network of connected sites around the world grew, each one a beacon of collaboration and learning. Emma's vision of a future where science and spirit coexisted was becoming reality. Yet, she remained vigilant. The shadows that had once threatened to engulf their work were still present, subtle and persistent, reminding them that the path forward required courage and humility. In moments of quiet reflection, Emma found strength in the stories they had uncovered, the triumphs and tragedies of the past, the awakening of the present, and the promise of the future. She realized that the journey was not just about technology or discovery but about the human heart, the capacity to choose love, compassion, and connection even in the face of uncertainty. Emma stood on the edge of the ancient site one last time, the fading desert sun casting long shadows across the cracked earth. The journey that had begun with a shocking discovery in Death Valley was drawing to a close, yet its impact was just beginning to ripple across the world. The pendant she wore, now a symbol of everything she and her team had fought for, pulsed softly against her chest, a heartbeat linking past, present, and future. Around her, the team prepared to leave the desert, their mission transitioning from exploration to stewardship. Governments, scientists, indigenous leaders, and everyday people had embraced the legacy of the ancient civilization, committing to protect and nurture the knowledge unearthed. Emma reflected on the road traveled, the moments of fear and hope, the betrayals and bonds, the revelations that reshaped how humanity understood itself and its place on Earth. This was not merely a story of discovery, but of transformation. A call to awaken the light within every person to face challenges with courage, wisdom, and love. As she walked through the remains of the ancient archive one final time, Emma's thoughts turned to the countless lives touched by their journey. The hikers who first stumbled upon the secret in Death Valley had ignited a spark that had grown into a global flame. Their courage to explore the unknown, to question and persevere, had sparked a movement greater than any one person. She thought of Jake's steady hands and sharp mind, Lena's quiet strength and empathy, Mark's boundless optimism, and the countless allies around the world who had stepped forward with hope and resolve. Each had become a bearer of light in a world often shadowed by fear and division. Emma's heart swelled with gratitude and humility. The path ahead was still uncertain, but the foundation was strong. The ancient technology, once a source of fear and temptation, had been transformed into a beacon of possibility. A reminder that progress must be guided by compassion and respect. She recalled the words inscribed in the final chamber, "Light is born from darkness, and in light, we find our way." Those words had carried them through every challenge, illuminating the way forward. As night fell over the desert, Emma gathered the team around a small fire beneath a sky full of stars. She shared her vision of legacy, not just of what they had uncovered, but of what they would leave behind. A legacy of light, hope, and unity. They spoke of the future with cautious optimism, knowing that the journey of stewardship was ongoing and required vigilance and heart. The pendant's pulse seemed to synchronize with the rhythm of their shared resolve. Emma whispered once more the question that had guided her throughout: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer, now more than ever, was clear and unwavering: love. Love for each other, for the planet, and for the endless possibilities of human potential. As the fire's glow softened and the desert night embraced them, Emma felt a profound peace settle within. The story of the hikers, the ancient civilization, and the awakening was now woven into the fabric of humanity's story, a testament to resilience, hope, and the enduring power of light. And with that, a new legacy truly had begun. Even as the sun set on the desert and the world began to absorb the monumental changes sparked by Emma and her team, a new chapter quietly unfolded, a chapter defined not by the past, but by the future. The ancient technology they had uncovered in Death Valley was no longer a hidden secret, it had become a foundation upon which humanity could build new dreams. But with every great leap forward came echoes, whispers from tomorrow that demanded attention and care. The global response to the discovery had been overwhelming. Nations collaborated, scientists shared data freely, and grassroots movements flourished. Yet beneath the optimism lay questions that stirred unease. What unforeseen consequences might arise? Could humanity truly wield such power without repeating the mistakes of the past? Emma understood that the legacy they had inherited was both a gift and a burden. In the months that followed, Emma devoted herself to ensuring that the lessons learned were not forgotten. She traveled widely, speaking not only to leaders and scholars but also to communities directly affected by environmental and social challenges. Her message was consistent: progress without empathy was hollow, technology without conscience was dangerous. The echoes of the ancient civilization's downfall rang loud and clear, a warning etched into the very systems they had revived. At a global summit held in New York City, Emma addressed an audience of thousands. Her speech was a blend of science, history, and heartfelt appeal. She recounted the story of the hikers who had stumbled upon the technology, of the trials faced and the hope that had sustained them. She emphasized that the ancient systems were designed not just to advance civilization but to test it, to see if humanity was ready to rise to a higher standard of stewardship. The room fell silent as she concluded with a challenge: we must listen to the echoes of tomorrow. We must ask ourselves, how will our choices today shape the world of our children and grandchildren? Will we be remembered as those who chose greed and division, or as those who dared to love, to unite, and to protect? Her words sparked a movement within the summit, leading to the establishment of a global council dedicated to ethical technology and environmental guardianship. Emma was appointed as an honorary advisor, a role she accepted with humility and resolve. She knew this was not the end but the beginning of a lifelong mission. Back in the desert, the team continued their work, now focused on education and outreach. They developed programs to teach future generations about the interconnectedness of technology, nature, and humanity's spirit. The pendant Emma wore became a symbol of this mission, a reminder that true power lay in love and responsibility. One evening, as Emma sat beneath the vast expanse of stars, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The desert winds whispered ancient secrets, and the pendant's steady pulse echoed the rhythm of the earth itself. She understood that the story was bigger than any one person or discovery. It was the story of humanity's ongoing quest to find balance, to heal wounds, and to build a legacy worthy of the future. Her thoughts turned to the question that had guided her through every challenge: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This time, the answer was both simple and profound: hope. Hope not just as a feeling, but as a choice made every day through actions grounded in love and courage. As the night deepened, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The echoes of tomorrow were calling, and she was ready to listen, to lead, and to keep the light burning bright for those who would come after. The journey was far from over, but the legacy of light was alive and growing, illuminating the path beyond the horizon. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert horizon, casting a golden glow that seemed to breathe life into the earth beneath Emma's feet. The world had changed, but the essence of their mission remained steadfast, guarding the ancient legacy and nurturing the hope it inspired. Emma stood quietly amidst the vast landscape, reflecting on the enormity of what lay ahead. The discoveries in Death Valley had set off a chain reaction of global awareness and responsibility, but now came the real challenge: sustaining that momentum and ensuring the future was shaped by wisdom, compassion, and unity. The Global Council formed after the New York Summit had begun to take shape, bringing together minds from every continent and discipline. Scientists, ethicists, indigenous leaders, environmentalists, and policymakers all convened regularly, their debates spirited but focused. Emma's role as an advisor had expanded into that of a mentor and a mediator. She found herself navigating complex discussions about the use and governance of the ancient technology, always reminding the group that their decisions would echo across generations. Despite the progress, Emma knew the path was fraught with obstacles. There were factions driven by profit, fear, and misunderstanding. Old rivalries and mistrust lingered beneath the surface, threatening to unravel the delicate web of cooperation. Yet, every time she faced these challenges, Emma returned to the lessons embedded in the legacy they protected, the imperative to lead with empathy and to listen deeply to one another. Back in the desert, the team worked tirelessly to establish a research and education center dedicated to the ongoing study of the ancient technology and its ethical applications. The center became a hub for collaboration, attracting scholars, activists, and students eager to contribute. Emma often found herself mentoring young minds, seeing in them the spark of curiosity and courage that had first set her on this path. One day, a letter arrived from a remote village in South America, written by a young woman named Sophia. She described how the story of the hikers and the ancient legacy had inspired her community to protect their own natural resources and to embrace sustainable practices. Sophia's words touched Emma deeply, a reminder that the legacy was not confined to deserts or labs, it lived in hearts and homes around the world. Emma shared the letter with her team, and it became a symbol of hope and connection. They responded with support and resources, building bridges between communities and fostering a global network of guardians committed to preserving the earth and its wisdom. The pendant Emma wore pulsed softly as if in approval, a steady reminder of the bond they all shared. As the years passed, Emma witnessed remarkable transformations. Technologies evolved in harmony with nature, education systems prioritized ethical stewardship, and cultural exchanges deepened understanding and respect among diverse peoples. The shadows of greed and destruction were challenged by light, by the collective will to heal and protect. But Emma also understood that vigilance was eternal. The ancient civilization's story was a cautionary tale, a mirror reflecting humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. She knew complacency was the greatest threat, and so she continued to ask the question that had become her guiding star. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Her answer, unwavering and true, was love, the love that fueled resilience, fostered connection, and ignited change. On a crisp evening, Emma stood once more beneath the desert stars, surrounded by her team and new generations of guardians. They shared stories, laughter, and dreams, celebrating not just what they had achieved but the endless possibilities ahead. The pendant's pulse seemed to synchronize with the heartbeat of the earth, a living testament to their shared commitment. Emma knew the legacy was safe, not because any one person held all the answers, but because they had built a community rooted in trust, respect, and hope. Together, they were guardians of the future, lighting the way for those who would come after, ensuring that the echoes of the past guided humanity toward a horizon filled with promise and peace. And as the desert wind whispered ancient secrets once more, Emma smiled, ready to face whatever dawn awaited them, knowing they were no longer alone. The world was changing faster than anyone had predicted. The discoveries that started in the cracked earth of Death Valley had ignited a revolution, one that blended technology, humanity, and nature into a new tapestry of possibility. Emma felt the weight of this transformation pressing on her shoulders, but she also sensed a turning point, a moment when all the effort, sacrifice, and hope could either blossom into something extraordinary or unravel into chaos. She stood in the heart of the new Global Research Center, a sprawling complex built to honor the ancient legacy while pushing the boundaries of what humanity could achieve. The air buzzed with energy, scientists and engineers worked side by side with environmentalists and indigenous leaders. The atmosphere was electric, full of ideas and dreams. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. Emma was meeting with the council's leadership team, discussing a proposal that had sparked intense debate. Some factions wanted to accelerate the deployment of the ancient technology worldwide, seeing it as the ultimate solution to climate change, resource scarcity, and energy crises. Others urged caution, warning that rushing forward could trigger unforeseen consequences that might be irreversible. "I understand the urgency," Emma said, her voice calm but firm, "but we have to remember why this technology was buried in the first place. The ancient civilization faced their own recklessness. We cannot repeat their mistakes." Her eyes scanned the room, meeting the gaze of each council member. "Our responsibility is not just to harness power, but to wield it wisely." Jake nodded in agreement, adding, "We're dealing with forces beyond our full understanding. We've made progress, but the systems are complex, linked to ecosystems and even human consciousness in ways we're only beginning to grasp." His tone carried the weight of someone who had witnessed both the marvels and dangers firsthand. Lena, ever the voice of empathy, spoke next. "We must engage communities worldwide, especially those most vulnerable. Technology alone won't save us if we don't build trust and cooperation at every level." Her words echoed the philosophy that had guided their journey from the start. The debate stretched late into the night, but a consensus began to emerge, a phased approach that balanced innovation with prudence, openness with security. Emma felt a surge of hope. This was the kind of leadership the world needed, collaborative, humble, and rooted in shared values. Outside the center, the world was watching. Media outlets buzzed with coverage, governments prepared policies, and citizens debated what this meant for their futures. Emma often found herself reflecting on the hikers who had uncovered the ancient technology years ago, a small group whose curiosity had set this all in motion. Their courage reminded her that big changes often began with simple, brave steps. One afternoon, as Emma walked through the bustling hallways, she received an unexpected visitor, Sophia, the young woman from South America whose letter had touched her heart. Now a burgeoning leader in environmental activism, Sophia had come to share news of her community's success in combining ancient wisdom with modern sustainability. Their efforts had led to restored ecosystems, revitalized traditions, and a renewed sense of purpose. Emma felt a profound connection across time and space. This was the true power of the legacy, not just technology, but the awakening of human spirit and responsibility. Sophia's story was a beacon, proof that change was possible when people came together with hope and determination. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the center, Emma gathered with her team to celebrate a milestone, the successful launch of a pilot program that integrated the ancient technology with local communities in ways that honored their values and environments. The project was a symbol of the journey's next phase, one defined by respect, partnership, and care. That night, under a sky full of stars, Emma sat quietly, feeling the familiar pulse of the pendant against her heart. She whispered the question that had guided her through every challenge: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This time, her answer was clear: faith. Faith in humanity's capacity to learn, to grow, and to choose light even in the darkest times. The turning point had arrived. The path ahead was uncertain, but Emma knew that with courage, compassion, and unity, they could face whatever came next. The legacy was no longer just a story of discovery, it was a call to action, a reminder that every generation holds the power to shape the future. And so, with the desert wind whispering ancient secrets and the pulse of the pendant steady and strong, Emma and her team stepped forward into the dawn of a new era, ready to protect the legacy and nurture the light for all who would follow. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?